Yep.
Okay. My name is Wendy Pitkin. I'm here today to interview Colin McInnes about their life on the islands.
Yep.
Okay, so welcome, Colin.
Thank you, Wendy.
Nice to meet you.
Lovely to be here.
What brought you to the islands and when did it occur?
Okay, 1999. In 1988, we acquired a squatter's hut, Kay and I, on North Point, Moreton Island. And we were there until June 1999. June 1999, the bulldozers came through and that was the end of our little hut on the beach. So that finished that, 45 huts. And what it created for us, a need to go somewhere where we're close to the ocean. Now, we lived at Kippering, right? Number 6 Johnson Street, Kippering. We'd been there for 16 years. And my love of the water, and we wanted to get as close to the water as possible. So there was one friend of ours that had one of these squatters' huts, had a friend that owned a block of land on Lamb Island that he had for sale for $500. Kay and I got in our car. $5,000. So Kay and I got in our car and we drove all the way up to Bundaberg, and every time we came to a cut road that went off to the right, we took it. And we looked at properties all the way between Redcliffe and Bundaberg. And some of the properties, even in those days, 1999, were up around the $1 million mark when you went around Woodgate, etc. So for a block of land, we're talking, not for a house. So we said, let's have a little look at this Lamb Island place. Where's that? So we came down here and in our boat, we had a little tinny, a 16-footer, and we circumnavigated Russell Island. And I said, that's okay, but gee, it's big. And we had lunch at Carrigo Beach. And I said, isn't this just beautiful? Because I can buy myself a boat, and with the love of the water, this will be fantastic. So we went away and we came back a couple of weeks later, and we actually got on a boat at Coochie-Mudlow. We went to Coochie-Mudlow, and the boats in those days, the water taxis, used to go via North Stradbroke Island and Coochie-Mudlow. We're talking about 1999.
Oh, that would be a decent trip.
They went from
Cleveland
to Coochie to the islands.
Wherever. Anyway, we got on this boat, and where are you going to? And we said, Lamb Island. Oh, that's okay, we go there. Fantastic. So we got off the boat on the Lamb Island, went to the kiosk, and what are you doing here? Di Cheeseman was the lady that owned it with her husband at the time. And what are you doing here? Oh, we're here to have a look at a block of land. And we went and had a look at it. It was a terrible block of land. It was a shocker. It was down in a gully in the $5,000. And I said, so we met up with a real estate agent, and that day we bought a block of land in Lucas Drive. And that was getting towards Christmas in 1999. That's how we came to be on Lamb Island. It was to replace a squatter's hut at North Point, Moreton Island. However, we really do prefer to own our property than be a squatter. There's a lot more advantages. Anyway, that answers that question.
Okay, well, the next question was, did you buy a house or build your own?
We bought a block of land, and we bought a friend of ours over, and Kay's mother, who I dearly loved. She was the matriarch of the family. And this friend of mine and Kay's mum, and we came over and parked his station wagon on this block of land in Lucas Drive, and I got up on the back of it, and we were working out where we're going to build a house, where we're going to put it, and all that stuff. And while we're there, I walked over through grass up to my waist, up onto Resthaven Drive. And when I got to Resthaven Drive and the grass up to my waist, and it was just a dirt road, but it was the end of the dirt road of Resthaven Drive. It was in two parts. And this was right at the end of the bottom part of Resthaven Drive. And I tripped over a bit of fibro with a phone number on it with a little for sale. And I went, this was meant to be. So our first block of land was $7,000, or just over $7,000. And this block of land, the lady that owned it, she lived out at Toogoolawah. So I rang her up and said, you want to sell your block of land on Lamb Island? Yes. How much money? Oh, $16,000. And I said, for those days where you could buy, there was land everywhere from between 500 and 5,000. There were hundreds for sale. So we had an awful lot of choice, but this one, to build a house, it's the highest house above sea level on Lamb Island. And it has unbelievable views. We get water views out of every window of our house. 2-story house. So we're about 35 metres, I think 38 metres above sea level on Lamb Island, so we look straight across the roofs of houses across the other side of the road, which are waterfront. The lady actually said to me, "You'd want a waterfront property," and I said, "There is none. There is no waterfront on any of these islands." Well, there's about a dozen of them. I class waterfront as being usable 24/7. The rest of the time, because of the tidal thing in front of our place, it goes out 200 metres. So the rest of the time, twice a day there's high tide, yes, but the other rest of the time, it's mudfront. So I want to, all I can do is look at it, I want to look at more of it. That was the bottom line of why we bought, and that's where we built our house as an owner-builder. The block of land we had behind us on Lucas Drive, a year after we'd moved into our house, and I was looking at this block of land. I'm not all that fussed on mowing, so I said to Kay, "We really need to do something with that, sell it to someone or what?" So I thought, no, we won't sell it. I don't like selling real estate, I like buying it, I don't like selling it. So I said to Kay, well, we've done a lot of touring, we're going to get to that in a minute, touring all over the world, playing Golden Knowledge Rugby Union is one of my loves. And I said, well, why don't we, we'd stayed in bed and breakfast all over the world. And I said, why don't we build a bed and breakfast here? And she said, do we really need to do that? And I said, we need to do something with it because it's going to sit there and cost us money. There's no income, it's all outgo, rates. So we did about 6 months market research, and I figured out that it was going to a lot of work to actually run a bed and breakfast. And then once we decided to do that, another owner builder. I did that one as well as an owner builder, 2-bedroom house that we ran as a bed and breakfast for 18 years. We only stopped that 18 months ago.
No, it's 4 years ago.
Is it that long?
Yes.
Okay, 17 months then. So as a bed and breakfast. The first 5-6 years we won numerous awards for hosted accommodation, Redlands on Moreton Bay, and even got some mentions at state level in the state tourism industry. So we built that house, then we built the bed and breakfast, and we opened that Good Friday 2002. So that's 20 years now that it was open as a B&B. We've had a tenant in it for the last 18
4
months.
years.
4 years, is
Yes.
it? A tenant in it for 4, okay. We've had, thanks, Carl. A tenant in it for the last 4 years. Yeah. So too old for me to do the cooking and the marketing, which was extensive. My entire life's been involved in marketing.
Okay.
Yep.
So what type of community involvement were you involved in?
Okay. Let's
On
start
the islands.
on the
Yeah,
islands.
on the islands.
Only talk about the islands, because
Yes.
if we go back 50 years,
No,
I
no.
have been involved.
It's not relevant.
No, it's not. It's not relevant. Well, it is to me because that's where my training came from. So my involvement here on these islands has been at an executive level, always. The very first one was the Secretary Treasurer actually of the Chamber of Commerce, a chap by the name of John Riley. What was the name of his business? Something law. Anyway, his office was over at Macleay, and he rang me up, and we'd been running the B&B for about a few years, and he rang me one day and said, have you thought about joining the Chamber of Commerce? And I said, no, I haven't thought about it at all. And he said, I think you should join the Chamber of Commerce. And I said, oh, okay, John, when's the meeting? And he said, that night. It was a Wednesday, I'll never forget it. So what do I need to do? And he said, oh, you need to give us $100 because that's a membership fee. So I paid my $100 that day. I went to the meeting over at Russell Island, and one of the real estate agents, been around forever, was heavily involved. The chap that was the president at the time is a K something W here on Russell Island.
He's a builder.
Builder on Russell Island, still here, still doing it.
Oh, KCW, yeah.
Yeah.
KCW, he was the president. this real estate agent. So there was only 6 people in the room, including me. And they said this is about normal for what we get turned up here. Anyway, it happened to be the AGM. Can you believe this? So I didn't know it at the time, but it was certainly a setup. And when it came to the election of officers, they said, righto, everyone here, because there's a president, a secretary, and well, the secretary treasurer was the one person, but a president, secretary, treasurer, and then I think 4 committee members. And they said, well, seeing as you're here, you should be on the committee. And I said, well, if I'm here and I'm going to be involved, I'm like that. If I'm going to be involved, I might as well have a vote. Otherwise, there's no point turning up to the meetings. So I said, yeah, all right. So then they said, okay, now that this is the committee, now we decide on who is going to do what jobs. So we'll start at the top with the president. And that chap, KCW, I can't think of his name now. Nice guy.
Ian
Yeah.
Godwood.
Goddard.
Yeah.
That's it?
Yeah.
Ian Goddard. Nice guy. I like him. And good at what he does too. Very good at what he does. Anyway, he said, so what about you, Cole? And I said, don't you want to be the president anymore? Yeah, no, continue on with the thing. And he said, well, you know, I've done my time. We need some fresh blood. So why don't you take on the president's job? And I said, oh, well, not particularly. You know, you just made me a member of the committee. You know, I've only been here for 10 seconds. So the other 4 of them said, no, he's moving a motion and we're seconding it that you're the president. So whether you like it or whether you don't, you're it. So that started a 4-term thing as president. Then I spent a couple of years as vice president. I was instrumental in bringing a significant amount of change to the Southern Moreton Bay Island, well, the Moreton Bay Islands Chamber of Commerce. One of the first things that I did was to change the name to the Southern Moreton Bay Island Chamber of Commerce. I know about reach and I know about marketing and how that works. So to identify us, apart from North Stradbroke, so in Redlands has been this, if you're not part of North Stradbroke Island, we had this battle for 17 years. If you're not part of North Stradbroke Island, you're not part of the tourism industry for this area at all. It's North Stradbroke or nothing. Now, North Stradbroke Island's only got like 1,800, 2,000 people, and you know, back in those days we had a population of about 12,000, or all up I'm talking about, all 4 islands, was about 12 or 13,000. And but we had 4 islands, so we changed the name to Southern Moreton Bay Islands Chamber of Commerce to identify us, so that when we started doing our marketing, I was instrumental in starting Southern Moreton Bay Islands Tourism, which came underneath, it was a subsidiary of the Chamber of Commerce. So the tourism section, and we elected a board. We like to call it a board, or a committee if you want to call it a committee. And that committee came underneath the chamber. So we elected the committee and supported these people that stood to sit on the committee. Quite a bit of change there. That particular thing, the tourism thing, back in 2005, I suppose it would have been 2006, around that area, there was quite a bit of change. We were 10 years premature to do the tourism thing. Today, absolutely, because there's a population and there's been a whole heap of changes that are very, very good for all of our islands. So that sort of folded as I went out. Our local member, the state member of parliament, Matt McKechnie, I was the one that got him involved, and he ended up being the president only for a very short period. He was only president for like 6 months. Then he went out, and then Chris McGregor was involved, and the lady from Macleay Island, a solicitor from Macleay Island, that took on the president's job. So that's...
This is not about you. Going too far.
Going too far? All right. Well, that's what I did.
Get on to the other things.
Well, other things from the
yacht
Chamber.
club,
Well, we
yeah.
haven't got to that yet. The Chamber of Commerce was the first one. Around about the same time, I'd been a member of the Carragary Yacht Club, which is that's a whole brand new ball game. Carragary Yacht Club had been when I took over as the Commodore in 2011, and that was the same year that I was elected president of the Chamber of Commerce. Both all happened in 2011. Carragary Yacht Club, I'd been a member of it since 2000, since we arrived here. I'd been a member. Barry Luke was the Commodore, and Barry asked me to be the treasurer, so I did 2 years as treasurer. And then Barry Luke decided he wanted to fold the club up, and a chap by the name of B. Daly came to me, who was the vice Commodore, and said, Cole, I don't want to see it fold up, do you? And, no. Do you want to keep it running? Absolutely. So what job do you want? And I said, well, I don't want any jobs. I've already got some jobs. And he said, well, we need to keep it going, so we need someone to run it. So you're the obvious choice. And I said, why don't you run it? He was one of the charter members of the Carragary Yacht Club that had been going for, we had our 25th anniversary whilst I was the Commodore. It was a big thing. We had the mayor and everybody come over. And so that kept it going. I did 4 terms there as Commodore of the Yacht Club. Then I did a couple of terms as Vice Commodore. And then year before last, they wanted to have a sail past and a blessing of the fleet that I introduced in 2011. We had it actually in 2012. And we had 4 in a row, 4 sail past and blessing of the fleet. The very first one that I ran, there was 70 boats in it. And they came from all over Moreton Bay. I'm an inclusive person, not an exclusive person. When someone wanted to join the yacht club, they didn't have to have a boat or not have a boat, it wasn't relevant. Barry said you can't join if you've got a boat. So it was a bit of a funny thing with Barry. It was a bit silly. So, and I had invitations went out to every senior major yacht club in the entire Moreton Bay. So, Royal Queensland, Moreton Bay Trailer Boat Club, Moreton Bay Boat Club, the major ones, and then there's about 40 odd boat clubs / yacht clubs in Moreton Bay, and there's quite a few other little ones that aren't registered, but most of those have sail pass and blessing of the fleet, and because of my involvement, I went to visit all of the major ones. So Gold Coast Yacht Club, Southport Yacht Club, Royal Queensland, Moreton Bay Trailer Boat Club, Moreton Bay Boat Club, I went to their sail pass and blessing of the fleet. So that created some of them coming to ours. So the reciprocal thing was going on. So the yacht club, that was the 2 big things that I did while I was the Commodore. One was the sail pass and the blessing of the fleet. The very first year I introduced Carragary Yacht Club's Commodore's Ball. Now they still talk about it. And that went for 5 years. And unfortunately, without that push in the driving force after 5 years, it's just collapsed. But that first 4 years was extensive. So the Commodore's Ball was formal, maximum 110 people on the beach, actually on the beach, so with their feet in the sand, under marquees, night time, open fires, live band playing, and it was unbelievable. So the formal bit was the boys had to wear a shirt and a bow tie and a jacket. Now some of them went right over the top of it, like Robin Harris, for instance. He won the best dress one year because he had a top hat and tails. So didn't he? He's the past president of Macleay Island Progress Association, so I had a lot to do with him and Sandy over the years. So, and on the bottom half, shorts and thongs. So it didn't matter what they had on the bottom. So it was beach formal. So the last year that I did that, and it was a possibility of getting it to happen again, a friend of mine by the name of Alan Early spent a couple of years as my Vice Commodore. He was a member of, for many, many, many years, a member of the Queensland Navy Band, Queensland Division of the Queensland Navy Band, playing in the Navy Band. So they do all sorts of stuff that they do. So we had a conversation about arranging the Navy Band to come and play the music for us for our Commodore's Ball on Carragher Island. And we were successful in doing that the last year. We had 110 people sitting on the beach listening to 30, all dressed in whites with all their instruments playing for us on the back of a semi-trailer. The atmosphere, very difficult to explain. I did a little bit of a teary thinking about it. It was so successful. People were bringing their tables and chairs and fold-up tables down from Macleay and Lamb Island and putting them along the foreshore to listen to the music. They could hear it coming across the water. So for many years after that, I still get asked, when are you going to have another visit from the Navy Band? That had to be authorised by the head of the Navy, the Admiral of the Fleet in Sydney, had to approve it. So I had to write this big long letter asking for approval and who was going to do the funding, all that stuff. And that was absolutely brilliant. So they were the two club things. BICSI, Bowen Community Services. Kay and I have been friends with Angela, our current, I think her title's general manager or manager, her manager here. And we've been friends with Angela and Mel for 20 years. We met them very early in the piece and they came over to our place and we had lunches. And so we're still very good friends, always have been. So when Angela got involved with BICSI, she'd been involved in other areas, but when she got involved at that level, we were one of the first people, Kay and I, that she asked for help. And we said... We didn't
for what? We were busy.
We're busy doing stuff, but we got a little bit involved and over years it got a little bit... Kay ended up on the companion line.
Don't talk about me.
No, I'm just saying, my involvement was because my wife was involved with the companion line, so I'm involved with BICSI. There was a can-do, yes. And there was a thing on, they had a fashion parade over at Macleay Island, and Angela asked me to be the MC, the Master of Ceremonies for that fashion parade, and that was a whole ball of fun. I wore my kilt, it's a Scottish thing, so McInnes, MCINNES, is the McInnes clan's been around in Scotland since 500 AD with direct line that we can go back. So we've got our own tartan and all the rest of the stuff. So we did that. While all this is happening, I've been playing rugby my entire life. Okay? The highest level that I got to was in a service when I was in the Royal Australian Air Force. I did 6 years in the Royal Australian Air Force. And during that period of time, I was playing rugby league to start with, and then I switched to rugby union, playing both of them for about 6 months. And then I found out that rugby union was a ruffians game played by gentlemen, not a gentleman's game played by ruffians. So I went like a duck to water with the rugby union people. When I finished doing that, the actual rugby thing, and we had businesses throughout virtually the whole east coast of Australia, New South Wales, Queensland and the Australian Capital Territory in the motor industry. So in 1991, I got invited to join 4X Goldies Rugby Club. They've got their own clubhouse. I'm still a member of that club at Ballymore. Since 1991, Kay and I have been around the world 3.5 times playing football. Kay doesn't play the football, but I do. But it's golden oldies. So the big thing about golden oldies, got to be over 35 years of age. And as you get older, the short colours change. So at 50, your short colours go into black, 60 red, 50 red, 60 gold,
70s purple.
And 70s purple. So once you get, which I'm now, 74 years of age now, so I'm in purple shorts. The next game that I would dearly love to go to is in Perth in Western Australia in March next year. So if I want to go to that, all I've got to do is just put my hand up to our club and say, or maybe I would go with another club. I'll be thinking maybe Mudcrabs at Redlands. They attend all of these international festivals that go for 7 days. So whilst I've been involved with the rugby club and the football and the travelling and doing the B&B and doing the Chamber of Commerce and doing the yacht club. I've been busy. And I've been busy right up until the time Kay got involved and me we lost our daughter to suicide 11 years ago on the 11th of April was the 11th year, just this year. And that took a few years. It took me personally about 3 years to get through that. 5 years ago, we were going to a Redlands Coast Suicide Prevention Network meeting by invitation. The then secretary, we were at the AGM 4 years ago, and at that AGM he asked Kay if she'd like to be on the committee, and Kay said, oh yeah, okay, and he said, now what about you, Colin? And I said, well, where Kay goes, I go. You get 2 for 1. This is how this works. So yeah, I'm okay with it. And same story. If I'm going to turn up to something, I'm happy to be involved at that level to have a vote, because I can't see the point in just waffling. If you're going to be there, you might as well try and make a difference. So I went on to the committee. We had a fundraiser last year at our house, raised $300 and something for the Redlands Coast Suicide Prevention Network, and at that meeting, this Ken Meldrum, who was in charge of mental health, Brisbane South Health. So he had 35 people under him for mental health of the hospitals between Brisbane and the Gold Coast, the Southside Health. And he said to me, would you, you're already on the committee, but would you take on the position of treasurer? And what do you know about the Department of Fair Trading? And I said, lots. Apart from all these organisations, all I might add have been incorporated bodies. So Chamber of Commerce and the Yacht Club, Inc. So, and the suicide prevention is an Inc. So I know how to run a meeting, and I know how to establish, and I know how to work. I'm also a real estate agent. Have been now for about, 15 years? It'll be pretty close. 12 to 15 years as a real estate agent. The only reason I took that on was because with our marketing, with our bed and breakfast, in the first 3 questions that I would ask our customer and say, your breakfast and your alcohol, and that's fully licensed, I might add, for people that are actually there, our customers. In those first 3 questions, 100% of one of those 3 questions was, what's for sale on Lamb Island? So I spent a fair bit of time driving our customers around Lamb Island, showing them stuff. And I was involved in a few sales, and then I thought, I'm not even getting a sandwich out of this. I might as well go and get my licence, and because getting that was incredibly easy for me. So I've had that fair trading thing. So there you go.
Well, I think that's been a lot.
It's been a lot.
You've been a very busy person,
Very
and I'd like
busy.
to thank you for coming along to the interview.
That is fine. No problems.